today we are making a baby sweater. I have multiple that I have done, but I'm going to show you from start to finish. The size we're doing is 6 to 12 months, which my baby is 12 months, and I'll have her do a little show and tell at the end. But you can also make a bigger one. I would say this second one that I made, let me show you. The second one that I made, I haven't put it totally together yet because I want to try to do a line. But I made the squares bigger by going around with the black twice instead of with this one. I only went around once. So for this one, I would say it is about a size, maybe like a 2 or 3 year old. Anyway, I already have our squares done. It's not the most appealing color. This is what we're working with. And let me count for you how many squares you will need. If you don't know how to make granny squares, here is a quick little tutorial of how I make them. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a granny square. I do mine with no magic ring and limited weaving in ends. I only have to weave in one end, so I want to teach you that way. Sorry for the angle. I would like to do it on a solid background, but we have to work with what we have, and that is this little girl. First I'm going to make a slip knot. Don't mind my crochet hook. My husband homemade an ergonomic hook and it looks very bad, but it does the trick. So we're going to chain 4. Now we're going to make a loop by doing a slip stitch into the first stitch, and we're going to find the center. We're going to chain 2. That will be our first double crochet, and then we are going to do 2 more double crochets into the center. Now we're going to chain 2, and as you can see this end, I'm going to just keep crocheting it into the center, if that makes sense. That way it wraps around and it's kind of weaving it in as we go. So chain 2, and instead of going on the opposite side and leaving the tail here, we are going to bring it with us. So we're gonna do 3 double crochets and we're gonna leave the tail up against our circle. So there's 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 3 again. And here's our last side. And then I like to connect it to this middle one with the slip stitch. And some people at this point, they like to go into the next stitch and then take their new color and change colors like this. I don't like this way personally because you can see this little knot, and I just think as you continue, let me show you, it kind of makes the square look a little weird where you changed colors. See where we changed colors right here, and it's kind of coming up. Like, I know we can tighten it, but I just don't like this way. So what I do, we crocheted, slip stitch into that middle one, and then we're going to slip stitch into this corner. And then I like to cut the tail off and bring it through. And then we're going to do the same thing like we did with the circle in the middle. We're going to keep this tail flush with the circle right here, and we're going to kind of weave it in as we go. So here's our slip stitch. Now we're going to connect this and make sure that both tails are over here. This way, we're kind of doing what we did before, and we're weaving them both in at the same time. So we're counting that as our first double crochet, second, and then chain 2. And then we're going to do 3 more double crochets, making sure that we are crocheting in the 2 tails. Now, I just clip this off because it's technically weaved in already, and I have never had a problem with it coming apart. And that's how I change color instead of the traditional way. I don't know if this is a common thing that people do, but this is the way I like to do it. So yeah, just wanted to show how I don't use a magic ring because I find them confusing, and I want limited ends to weave in. Obviously the very last one, the very last round, you have to weave that end in because it's your last round, but it's just much more manageable to me and less daunting to make granny squares when I don't have to weave in a bajillion ends. So I hope that is helpful. All right, so now you have your granny squares. I have 22 of mine, and again, we're making a 6 to 12 month sweater. Here are our granny squares, and I'm going to show you the first panel that we're going to make, which is the back panel. This is the back panel, and I am going to attach it using my yarn needle. You can crochet it together. I have done that, but I think I prefer doing it with the needle because it makes it a bit flatter. And we're also going to try to add a lining, so if you want to do it crocheted, you won't see the seam because we're going to add a lining. But let's get started. I will show you how I attach my squares. I'm just going to take my first two, and what we're going to do is find the V's. It's a little hard to see because it's black, and we're going to put the V's on the outside. If you watched any of my other videos, I usually sandwich it on the inside, but I'm going to try it this way because I think it might turn out better. What I do is I just take about an arm's length doubled up of yarn, and I cut it off. We don't want it to be too long because then it would be really hard to actually sew with. I'm going to attach my yarn needle. Make sure one end is short but not too short because you're going to want to weave this in. Then we have it sandwiched together, and we are only going in the external loop of the V. So only in one loop. Starting off, I pull it all the way through. Make sure to leave a significant tail so that you can weave it in. And then I just tie a little knot. And now what we're going to do is going in the back loop. We're just going to do our little snake zigzag stitch. I don't know what it's actually called, but I'm calling it a snake. If you do a whip stitch, which I have done before, it's not going to lay flat. It does not look the best. So I would advise doing this little snake. Pretty simple. I think sewing does take longer. I mean, not for me because I'm a very slow crocheter, but if you're a fast crocheter, then you might just want to crochet the squares together, but also make sure not to pull too tight. You want it to lay flat. All right, now that we're at the end, I like to do a little one whip stitch, and I put my needle through the hole and make a knot just to secure it. And there we have our first one done. Now, as you can see, the tail is in the middle of these, so I kind of just like to go every which way. Now I would probably connect this one, but then when your tail's over here, you're just going to want to weave it back so that we can connect this one. I will show you. Okay, so these on the outside. Let's do our first one. Little. Is this even straight? I promise I'll improve eventually on the camera work, but you know, I cannot be bothered with it. I know it would make my quality better, but okay. After we do our knot, we're just gonna do our little zigzaggy snake. Okay, we're at the end, so we do our little whip stitch, make our knot, and now we need to get back over here so that we can connect this one. So what you're going to do is you're just going to weave. Make sure as you're doing that you pull this and stretch it because we don't want it to, you know, mess with our square shape. Okay. Now we're back over here, so we can connect this one. And I think you understand what we're doing by now. So I'm going to pause the video. You can pause the video as well, and we'll just finish this back panel, and then we'll come back and we'll move on to the front panels and the arms. Hey, what are you doing? Do you need help with your toy? Hi. Why'd you flip it over? Hi, baby. Whoops. Hi, what do you think of the sweater? Why are you laughing at it? Do you like it? Hi, happy girl. Hi. Continuing. Now we need to do the front two panels, and that is just 3 here and 3 here. And do not attach them to this back panel. We're just gonna assemble them, and then I'll let you know what we do. Yep. It is now time to cut out the liner for the sweater. So let me show you all the pieces that we have. I did do the arms, and I kind of just didn't show you, so let me show you. Here's the back panel. Then we got the 2 sides, and here are the arms. So I did 3 and 3, and they will actually go this way, and they'll fold in on themselves like that. But I like to keep it open because we are going to cut out the lining fabric, so we want everything to be open so we can measure it. Alright, so I am attempting to do the liner now, and it did not go well. I cut out the pieces and made sure to do a seam allowance of about 1/4 of an inch. And then, for the life of me, I just could not figure out how to actually put it together, which you will see right now. Excuse how I look, and also this incredibly loud fish filter and my daughter playing. It's just always a mess over here. I'm trying to figure out the liner, and honestly, my motivation is very low, so I'm debating just not doing it. Or, like, I know there's a way that I can figure this out so that you don't see any of the seams or whatnot, like do it the inside out way, if you know what I'm saying. But I don't know if I have the brain power to try to do that. This is how literally all my projects are. I just give up. And I just cannot be bothered with figuring out the lining. So I know I could YouTube it, but this is a realistic crafting video, and sometimes, most of the time, I just give up. So we're putting that fabric away, and let's go add some buttons to my sweaters, and I guess finish attaching them as well. Alright, let's attach these sweaters. So to start off, you are going to have the back panel with the good side facing towards you. Put the good side of each of the front panels on top of that good sides together. Crochet the top, and then from halfway down the middle square all the way to the bottom, and this will create the armhole. Then, as you can see on this side, I'm going up. I'm going to slip stitch up to the top in order to go across and make that shoulder part. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you. Now we are doing the sleeve, and you are folding it hamburger style. Where the armhole is, 2 of the granny squares are going to actually line up, and then that 3rd one, it is going to be that bottom part sitting underneath the armpit. Am I making sense? I have no idea, but I believe in you. You can figure it out. Sorry, this isn't very helpful. Here is the finished result of my 3 sweaters. And of course I had to get Goldie to model one. It went perfect with her little outfit she was already wearing, so. Sorry this video was a mess, but I hope you guys enjoyed watching it, and tag me on Instagram if you guys make any of your own sweaters.